I don't care about your milkshakes. I don't want to drink milk.
But it's a delicacy.
There's a reason I don't have milk in my tea.
You don't have milk in your tea? What kind of blasphemy is this?
It removes the flavor.
It makes it more mild, but it does not remove it.
You have milk in your tea, don't have milk in your tea. What's the difference?
The difference is that milk is disgusting.
Milk is delightful.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Hello?
Who are you?
Hi. Sorry to just wander in. I thought this was just a normal dream, but...
Ashura, did you summon her?
I don't think I did so this time, but we might have our next interviewee.
Well,
Oh.
welcome.
Thank you. I might as well introduce myself, shouldn't I? It'd be rude if I didn't.
Oh, please do. And have a seat on any of these fine rocks.
Oh, this one looks fairly comfortable. My name is Zathira Hith. It's wonderful to meet you all. I hope I wasn't intruding. It seemed like you were having a deep conversation about tea, which...
I think you interrupted us just in the right time.
Well, I'm glad to save the day.
Well, Zathira, welcome to Delegations of Dreamers. It's a bit more of an impromptu interview, but we'll see what we can do.
Are you a faun?
Well, I guess you could call me that. I'm technically a Vandarin. Well, Fae, too. That's a hard thing to explain. But my kin do have deer-like features where I'm from, so... Flop, flop.
And where is that?
Oh, I'm from a large forest realm called Lothica. It's within a nation called Nakar. A small little island. Well, small, I say, but it's rather large. I'm not very good at... Oh, what's the word? Sizing? Things are weird in my perspective most times.
And the question I think all three of us want to ask, how did you get here? None of us summoned you.
Oh, well, that's a bit of a funny story. I'm used to dream walking. I just didn't realize I had wandered into a different dream realm than what I'm used to. Saw a cave with a strange door, believe it or not. Didn't understand it. I walked around, and then I saw you three sitting here, and obviously not a normal dream.
Yeah, I agree. Dreamwalk is a bit of a rare ability. We don't meet too many that have it.
Understandable. A bit of a rarity even where I'm from.
My apologies.
Oh, no need to apologize. It's just, this is the only time I can really, well, see much, and just to say, you guys look amazing. I've never really seen anything as amazing as you guys, except for that one time. But...
Thank you. Our art was by Azio Mecca.
Very beautiful.
Are you otherwise blind?
Yeah, unfortunately so. Though I've learned to adapt to it. Vibrations are easier to read than most may think.
I do apologize. I will be right back. My cat seemed to want a bit of attention.
Cats can be needy.
Well, he's away.
Yep, yes.
Do
I'll
you,
give you treats
are
once
you-
we're done.
are you, in any way tied to the Feywild?
In some way, shape, or form, I suppose so. I don't know much about our lineage. I wasn't very well taught about certain things, but considering we are Fae, I suppose we do have ties.
So that's where the magic is coming from. I am also Fey. Interesting getting to meet other people who are Fey. We haven't had that many around.
Mhm.
I notice you have a item which It seems to have some tie to a god. Do you know who it is?
That would probably be my tiara here. It's been passed down through all of the priestesses. It's the tiara of the moon goddess Selun. It blesses me with an ability to, well, be able to see more than I could before, even though it's just obscure outlines. But it comes in useful since trees don't have heartbeats, don't really vibrate often. I remember running into so many of those as a kid.
Sounds like a painful childhood.
And you've been blind all your life, correct?
Yes, of course, unfortunately. Born blind, still am.
How did you learn to go about feeling different vibrations? That's a rather high sensitivity skill to have.
Yes. Well, start off, I didn't really like wearing shoes very often, so I never wore them. And then my brother, he was very musical when we were younger. He kind of taught me how different things vibrate. And as I grew, my sensitivity to the earth and the vibrations grew as well, until I was gifted with the moon goddess Tiara, and it increased that sensitivity tenfold, which makes walking around a lot easier. Though it was a hard skill to learn and caused a lot of bumps and bruises, to the point where my parents refused to let me outside anymore because I was running into practically everything. It wasn't necessarily safe.
I can imagine so. When did you receive the tiara and what for? A coming of age or?
Well, a rot and a decay had begun to spread across our lands, and I was next in line to become our high priestess because I was receiving prophetic visions by the age of 6, and that is when I received the tiara. Only a couple of years later did my parents perish due to the rot, and so 8-year-old me had to try and run the entire village. I was the only one of authority, I would say, and that was a bit much on an 8-year-old.
So, how many things did you run into when you ran the village?
Now, I'm not sure if you mean me actually running into things, because I used to do that a lot anyway. Troubles. I ran into a lot of those too. Some of our kin were not fond of an 8-year-old running the village, so sometimes I would get help from the elders. But most of the times, decisions were left to me, so I unfortunately had to mature faster than other children. But it had its perks, so to say. I learned some history. I found out about the stars, and again, became more mature than my brother within the span of a few years. So after that, running it seemed like child's play. No pun intended.
So, what did you find out about the stars?
That each of the stars have their own essence, so to say.
You've spoken with them, haven't you?
I have. I've walked amongst them before. They have a lot of knowledge to share, a lot of things to say. Goodness. Especially Draco. Draco, that constellation can talk for hours.
He is quite opinionated, isn't he?
But I love listening. It's not often I get to speak with many people other than my brother or the elders, unfortunately. Well, until more recent. I finally got to get away from a solitary life, which was interesting. Met quite a few characters.
Now, speaking of the Celestials, that's a rare opportunity. It's normally something not many people can do or get the chance to do. What brought about this conversation? Did something happen?
It happened not too long after I reached the age of 18. I was able to tap more into the magic within my own self, and I took the oath of the stars. That night, I was blessed with a dream of walking amongst them, and was told numerous things. But one of the biggest things was about what was happening in the car, and my part I needed to play. As the High Priestess, I was, I guess, different. I never really quite understood why. A lot of things were put into perspective, and it was definitely an interesting journey.
So, what part did they want you to play?
I had to assemble the team. I needed to go with them, but being blind was a hard feat to do on yourself to travel across the country. But it is my duty to cleanse the rot and cleanse whatever is causing it.
So you're the reason the group that you're traveling with is together.
Yes.
And how did you go about finding these individuals? What prompted you to say, I want this person to work with me?
Well, this is where more of my connection to the stars comes in. I was sitting in a small area. There's a small little pond and everything. It's where I normally went to focus. I sat there and I began to speak. I didn't quite know what I was saying at the time, but as I was told, the voice could be heard through the forest. The stars knew who I needed, and they used me to bring forth them, summoning them through the fog and sound of the forest. They were apparently curious about what was calling to them, and they came. Once they were there, it felt like I was back. I didn't know who they were or why they were there, but I knew that these were the people I needed. And they were an interesting bunch, to say the least.
Can you tell us about them?
Of course. We had the first one that arrived. She fell from the sky. Quite literally. She was an Asmar by the name of I. She was quite a strong fighter, though her head was a little bit empty every once in a while. She fell, but was not injured. She followed the sound into the clearing where I was, and we spoke. There was also Mel. She was another Vandarin, but one I hadn't seen before. She had very fish-like features. But I suppose she was probably from one of the ocean realms. She suddenly appeared within my pond, so I kind of figured that she was meant to be there. She was very sweet and nice, and she was one of the reasons that I got onto a boat. She was there and she helped me through it, because boats are heckin' scary.
What is so scary about being on a boat?
I don't really see well on them. They kind of shake and shift, causing my vision to not work as well as it normally does on solid ground. Not to mention the incident that occurred. That really shook me up with boats.
Sorry, what incident?
Me and the group, we were on a boat on our way to Carcharodon. And the boat was attacked by a large undead creature. I was told it was an octopus? A giant octopus? I'm not entirely sure what giant octopi look like, but I'm gonna take their word for it. And I almost lost my brother and I to that fight. My brother Malik, he fell into the ocean and I got kind of caught by a tentacle of the beast. I couldn't do much. My aim with my bow was off because of the swishing and swaying of the boat. I couldn't get a read on the octopus, and I was rendered almost entirely useless.
Was it like becoming blind once again?
Yeah, that's not something I wanted to adjust to again. It was scary. I haven't been without my brother in my entire life, so almost losing him to the ocean was probably the worst, one of the worst days of my life. He's looked after me a lot, so it was scary.
How did he manage to escape from the octopus?
Yes, our lovely bard. Her name was Harper. She was a loving, caring firbolg. She ended up being able to charm the beast and gave Malik enough time to, swim the distance to get back onto the boat. Thank heavens for a bard. But it was still pretty scary.
So, apart from you, your brother, I, Mel, and Harper, was there anyone else in your party?
Yes, we had one more member. His name was Elbereth. He was a strange being, one that was undead, but still fully functional, as if looking for pieces of who he was. I've known, but not known him for several years. He's resided within one of the Vandarin cemeteries within the forest. Normally, we don't allow outsiders within that area, but he wasn't doing any harm, so we allowed him to reside and do what he needed. He seemed to be trying to reassemble his memories of who he was, as if that's what kept him going. He couldn't rest until he figured it out. Luckily, he was able to join us after I was able to convince him that we could help him figure out who he used to be. That was a hard discussion to try and convince someone, but in the end it worked out.
So, who did he used to be?
We haven't quite found all of the pieces yet. We only recently made it to the shores of Maris, which was another boat ride that I didn't like, but nothing bad happened on that one. We've found a few pieces of who he was. He was a fighter, strong, but there's still some mystery as to what brought him back that we haven't quite figured out yet. He's still confused, and I'm still very confused. There are so many pieces that just don't seem to fit yet.
Tell me, throughout your journeys, has there been any interesting interactions other than celestials? Something that you might have come across?
Well, one interesting interaction I can remember quite thoroughly happened similarly to this. I was in a dream and wandering. Things grew dark, and then it became very blue. And suddenly this massive dragon was before me. I couldn't believe my eyes. He spoke to me, and it was heart-wrenching, to say the least. He had been fighting off the decay that was spreading, and he was trying so hard to fight for Nakar and keep the decay back, but he himself ended up succumbing to the decay. And that's when he came to me within my own dreams, and he spoke with me about it. He knew he was going to die. He could feel it in his his bones and his blood. And he told me about the necromancer, about how things aren't as they seem, about a scroll we needed to find, a prophecy within it that needed to come true, about how to follow the stars and not lose my way within the darkness, because the decay caused so much darkness within our world. It was quite terrifying, to say the least, to see everything die around you. And even in a dream where you think you can escape from seeing that kind of horror, a dragon of all things comes to you. And you talk with it until you slowly watch it die. I've never seen death like that. But it only makes me more determined to fulfill my own role. I don't want to see the place I call home, die. I don't think anyone does.
Did you manage to catch the name of this dragon?
Yes, I believe his name was Merrick Cool.
That old man.
Oh, very cool.
He did seem pretty old.
My question is, did he know about the thing known as shaken milk?
Shake. Hold on. Did I in fact hear you correctly and you said shaken milk?
Yes, I think most commoners call it milkshakes, but it makes more sense to call it shaken milk when it's in fact shaken.
I wonder if some prefer it maybe be shaken instead of stirred.
Now, I do know a man named Strahd. He would love to have his thing shaken and not stirred, especially when it came to his booze. Man could drink so much, it was shocking he was not passed out drunk half the time.
Sorry, Rue. Looks like we're going to have to ask the next one about milkshakes.
I will eventually get my milkshake.
I have high hopes for you.
So tell us about Strahd. Sounds like you have some fond memories of this one.
Oh, yes. Strahd was a satyr we came across in our adventures. He was loudmouthed and constantly drunk, but it was funny to watch him try and play poker against people. Well, hear him play poker against people. I act as if I can see all the time. I'm so sorry. But you could tell he was not good at playing poker. He would constantly gamble away everything and then try and cheat his way into winning and do it very poorly. So there was quite often a lot of fights that happened because of Strahd. Eventually we ended up having to leave him when we left the area. But it was definitely a good time. I think that was the first time I ever had any alcohol in my entire life, and never again will I touch anything like that. No more fermentation for me, please. It was a strange night, because imagine being blind and only seeing vibrations, then getting drunk, and all of those vibrations turning into weird-ass wavy lines, and you're just like, oh god, where is anything anymore? And you think you're about to touch someone, and you're just touching air. It was a weird night.
I bet. Sounds like you had some of the mushrooms in the back.
Mushrooms.
Never mind.
Is Jeff still growing mushrooms in the cave?
Don't tell anyone.
No, my brother would kill me if I did that.
So, how do you play cards if you're blind?
I've tried playing cards once, and I ended up winning, surprisingly, only because being blind makes you really good at bluffing. I had no idea what cards I had, so I was able to keep a poker face because I couldn't see anybody else. I guess I was bluffing well enough till they thought I was like a pro. I won with literally having nothing in my hand. But, I felt bad. It's like, oh, this doesn't feel good. I don't feel like I won fairly, so I ended up not taking the winnings. I'm like, no, you guys can have it. I'm actually blind. Doesn't feel right taking money from people in the first place.
It's good that you're an honest one.
Of course.
I personally would have kept the winnings.
Yes, and you would have paid people to find you your shaken milk.
I can see it. At least right now.
I like this one.
I found it a bit startling that you managed to find our cave.
Well, I was outside and I saw it and I'm like, this is strange, this is different. I've wandered in dream worlds a lot, but never come across a cave like this. Especially a cave with just a random door.
Did you see a kobold in a red hat guarding the door?
I think so.
Was he asleep?
Yeah, he looked like he was kind of dozing a bit.
Damn it, Bob.
So I just kind of
What are we going to do with that one?
walked in. I didn't expect anyone to be here. I thought maybe some more kobolds, but then I found you three, and definitely not what I was expecting, but I will gladly take it.
We rarely are what people expect.
Well, you never go walk into a cave and expect, fae and 2 dragons. Maybe 1 dragon with like a horde or something, but not 2. It's definitely a sight.
Yes. I have a question that the last person we interviewed didn't have quite a good answer for, but if you were a god, what would you do with the world? What would you be a god of?
Oh, that's a difficult question to answer. But knowing myself, I'd probably be something of knowledge and life, sharing the words with others, but also helping to cleanse and rebirth the world, to bring it anew again, make life flourish and beautiful. I want to see the world purified again, all of its natural beauty.
A noble aspiration. What personality trait of yours would you say has got you in the most trouble?
Sometimes I act like a know-it-all, apparently. And even if I do, in fact, know what I'm talking about, if someone wants to dispute it, they most definitely will. I've ended up getting into a couple of debates with both our village elders and my brother, and maybe the leader of Carcarius when we went to visit there, because she didn't believe me that the decay was coming. So that was a argument and a half, and we almost got kicked out of Carcarius, and that would have been really bad. You don't fight a shark lady. She will probably more than likely win.
But how did you manage to convince her?
Thankfully, Elbreth had kept part of that octopus. So we used that until her son had come back, and he was out on patrol, and they had saw a bunch of the undead and decay crossing the borders of the swamp outside of Carcharodon, the swamp of Falcoth. It was getting really gross and really bad. So she believed us then, once someone else had told her, hey, you know that decay that's becoming a problem? Yeah, it's kind of on our front porch now. I'm like, I told you so, ma'am. I said something. We ended up convincing her, which was nice, but it took a lot of energy to do so. I ended up having to take a couple of days to rest. She sapped every single bit of energy that I could fathom. We need to build ourselves back up, and then we go out as soon as possible. And even then, I pushed it a little too hard. I can be a bit stubborn stuck in ways sometimes. If I need to do it, it's gonna get done. No matter the cost.
See, I have one final question, and this is partially just a little pet project of mine. I'm trying to figure out some more insults for a vicious mockery. What is the most imaginative insult you can come up with?
I haven't really had to insult people too much, but I'm sure there's an insult I can think of. Oh, there's one my brother used to use. He used to insult people by telling them they smelled worse than the back end of a decaying zombie. That tended to make some people cry, because zombie butts smell kind of gross, apparently. I've never smelt a zombie butt, but I'm gonna trust my brother. I don't want to smell a zombie butt. I've smelled zombies. Those stink. Ugh.
I can't imagine it could get any worse than the smell of a zombie's butt.
Hey, sometimes zombies can still let one rip. And I'm terrified to know what that smells like.
I mean, decay will cause gases, so that gotta get released somewhere.
Exactly.
All right. I believe that is all the time we have for today. Zathira, thank you for wandering into our cave.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We hope you have a good awakening. Until next time.